And later in this programme, in Business Today, you will see a lot more of that conversation between Faisal Islam and Sundar Pichai. It's really fascinating, covering all sorts of issues. So stay with us for more of that later. But now let's take a look at what's been happening as far as the Middle East is concerned. The UN Security Council has voted to adopt a US resolution backing President Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza. The resolution passed with 15 votes in favour, no votes against, and Russia and China abstaining. It authorises the formation of an international stabilisation force working with Israel and Egypt. The resolution outlines a 2-year mandate for the force. The proposal also plans to have Israeli troops withdraw from Gaza once the force has security control. A transitional government called the Board of Peace could also be established. The plan also calls for the permanent disarmament of non-state groups such as Hamas. But after the vote, Hamas rejected the resolution, saying it does not ensure the rights of Palestinians. The group said in a statement, assigning the international force with tasks and roles inside the Gaza Strip, including disarming the resistance, strips it of its neutrality and turns it into a party to the conflict in favour of the occupation. Well, let's discuss this with Stephen Zunes, who's Professor of Politics and Director of Middle East Studies at the University of San Francisco. Thank you again for talking to BBC News. First of all, your reaction that the UN Security Council did vote pretty much unanimously to adopt the US resolution. Your thoughts on that?
It is somewhat surprising because it puts a lot of the decision making into the hands of Donald Trump, who is not generally considered the most trustworthy of major leaders by much of the world's population. And it brings concerns, I think, for a lot of people. That's kind of a neo-colonial setup. That is, the Palestinian government that's recognized by 150 countries or more at this point is not a party to this. It's not gets to govern it, and while people are quite pleased, I think, to see Hamas out of the way, as this plan calls for, to have this board of peace run by Trump and his appointees is something that Palestinians from across the political spectrum are having some issue with.
But Hamas is not out of the way, and they're saying they don't agree to this as well. So it's one thing to see a vote in favour. It's another thing to see it outwork practically, isn't it?
Very much so. But if the peacekeeping force, which will presumably be from Islamic nations, comes in and it's really clear that they do want to stabilize things, I don't see it turning into a guerrilla war. I mean, Hamas's credibility in Gaza and much of the Palestinian population is pretty low at this point. And a lot of the fighters were fighting not because they supported Hamas's agenda, but because their country was being bombed and invaded by Israeli forces. So they don't really have that much of their core fighters left. So my sense is that the stabilization, though it's going to be a little messy, will probably be successful. The bigger concern is what comes next. Israel's still in occupation of 60% of Gaza, and there'll be strong demands for them to withdraw to their internationally recognized border, and they seem to be in no hurry to do that, and it's not included in the timetable is not included in the resolution. So
Also,
I think that's
in the
going to
resolution, Stephen, I don't know if you've managed to see it in detail, but it's not very clear what's meant by a Palestinian state either, is it?
No, and indeed, that was not in the original draft that the United States put forward. It was included only as a condition of getting support of the Islamic states and Arab states to support the resolution. But the Trump administration has generally been pretty negative towards the Palestinian state, vetoing resolutions supporting membership in the United Nations and elsewhere. But this was important to get the kind of support that the United States ended up getting. But we've seen that Israel is rejects that part of it, and if history is any guide, the United States is not going to push Israel to
Sure.
make that happen. So I think it's more of a gesture to get more support and make it seem more legitimate than anything that really moves forward the hope of a Palestinian state alongside Israel.
So significant hurdles still, as ever. Thank you so much again for
Very much
talking
so.
to us, Stephen Zunis, Professor of Politics and Director of Middle East Studies at the University of San Francisco.